or married. So same again, we can really focus down the kind of ads we want to show. So we might want to create a specific ad and landing page for people who are in a new relationship and say that in our ad copy. And the same again with people who are engaged. We can split people who are engaged down into people who are just engaged, people who have been engaged for 3 months, people who have been engaged for 6 months and 1 year and onwards. So all those opportunities let us target down the types of people who would be buying romantic gifts. And we can change what we offer too. So people tend to buy something very different when in the new relationship present than they would do after 20 years of marriage. There's a difference in what we want to offer people.
Yeah, very good, very important point, because we can target down to very specific demographic segments of people, yeah. And I think for romantic gifts, excuse me, that's probably more significant than even from the wearable tech, because for romantic gifts, as you say, someone who is a pensioner is going to want a different romantic gift probably than someone who is a teen. It's so easy with the marketing capabilities of Google and certainly Facebook for that purpose, that you can really drill down to the specific type of customer you want and then only spend your budget on the bang on 100% correct audience.
Definitely. Yeah. You made me think there of an opportunity that just seems to be in the market where we have so many people living longer and living life to the full for longer too. And it almost feels to me there's a bit of a gap in the market for romantic gifts for people who are 65 plus. What would you say?
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely. Certainly, I mean, I don't know the stats on... Well, I suppose it's a gap in the market because there are no stats on what pensionable age people buy those kind of gifts are. And as you say, it must be a huge opportunity for any kind of small business in that area to promote their products and services to that age range and to that person in that lifestyle, I suppose. As you say, we're all working harder, working longer, living life to the full longer, doing crazy things, bucket lists and everything else. That, yeah, there is a huge opportunity, whereas you see so much of the time romantic gifts are tailored to the younger generations up to the Generation X.
That's it. There we go. An opportunity for someone.
Yeah.
So our final point affects them all. And this is the fact that we've now got to the situation where 90% of consumers switch between screens to complete tasks. So what that means is they may have first browsed to a site on a desktop, then they look at it again on their tablet, and then perhaps again on their smartphone. So that idea that we move between screens is so huge now. We're a figure of 90%. So what have you got to say about that, Neil? That's a huge stat.
It's a fascinating stat. It kind of is, when you think about it in the call light today, it's such an obvious stat. If anybody that has tech, certainly anyone that is savvy with a smartphone or tablet, this will resonate with them, because you and I, my son, my wife, that we're all in the same boat here. You will use different devices for different purposes and at different points in the day. So in answer to this, the simple tip here, to my mind, is that you, as a product or service provider, must have your entire web presence capturing the audience, whatever the devices they choose. So your website absolutely must be mobile savvy for people to be able to navigate on a mobile device, whatever that mobile device is. You must also be able to have landing pages that have calls to action that are strong and present, whatever that device screen size is. If you're thinking of e-commerce or making any kind of online transaction, you need to ensure that your online transaction provider or service works and delivers a seamless process, whatever the device may be. So going back to my own personal situation, I will use a desktop computer, only a desktop computer, to do online banking. and to go online and make transactions in the main. Even though I'm 100% confident in how PayPal delivers those transactions. So if I go to a site like Amazon or anything that you can buy a site using PayPal, eBay, for example, I'll go on a desktop or I may go on my laptop where I know I've got Fort Knox security. I don't 100% trust the smartphone or Safari on the iPad as much. So I don't. However, that's a personal thing because I know my son does every single thing, every single online transaction, interaction on his smartphone. My wife, she's a little bit in between. So there are three people there, and I know this resonates with yourself and with your wife as well. We use different devices for different purposes. Different horses for courses as we're browsing, sat on a sofa on an evening, or sat at work in the daytime, doing various things, whatever that task or job may be that we're doing at the time. Every device has to be catered for, or the downside of that, the drop-off is you're going to lose a significant amount of traffic because you're not going to please a segment of the market.
Absolutely. And we never know which device a customer is going to make the final purchase on. So it has to be, as you were saying, cross all of them.
Yeah.
Do you hear people, I'm just thinking about what you were saying there, sometimes, like when I'm out and about, I will hear people say things like, oh, that website doesn't work on my mobile.
Cool.
It's become a social comment. It's that important. And that figure of 90% says it all. You know, Google themselves made a big change 2 years ago where they changed the way SEO would rank sites based on their mobile optimization. And that continues to grow, doesn't it? You know, we get little messages from Google Webmaster Tools telling us when a site is no longer mobile friendly. So that bar raises all the time. And I think the other point to bounce off what you said is it also, again, emphasizes the importance of remarketing. Because if people are going to potentially visit many sites 3 or 4 times, then having an advert to remind them to come back to ours is really important.
Good point there that you make about the fact that mobile is now so important, and we know that a mobile optimized site is good for organic rankings. I also believe that it's important if you're building an ad campaign to have an ad that gets a good quality score to get you one of the top ranking positions. Because if you think of the visual real estate on an iPad, I've got an iPad mini, or you think of that certainly on a smartphone, there is only so much screen size that you can be seen on. So organically, that's dropping off the face of or it's dropped significantly in the last few years. Now, ads are replacing that space. And as mobile does get more and more significantly browsed, used, you need to have ads that are placing, I would say, positions 1 and 2. Otherwise, people aren't going to see you when they use their phones more and more for the initial researching purposes of doing a browse. And on a mobile phone, that in the main is what people are doing in the first instance. They wouldn't be then making a transaction, doing deeper research about things, for example, reviews, visually looking at videos. A lot more are, no doubt about it. My son is an endorsement to that fact. But if you aren't in the top placements in terms of your ad, the quality score it gets, the structure of the ad and the calls to action you have on that ad, and then if you're not organically up anywhere near the top, then you may as well forget about it. Maybe that's a harsh statement to make, but I believe that's true.
I think it's a good point. I do. I think you have to be present. And the more people have to scroll, the less traffic you get. There's certainly a factor there. And Google made a change last year that reflects what you're saying, where we used to have ads at the top of the page and on the right-hand side. And the right-hand side ads have now gone. And an extra ad now appears at the top of the page.
Yep.
And that's really because so many more people are looking at the web on the smartphone. So that space to the right-hand side is redundant. So as we move forward, we may get more changes. But what we really work off the premise from is that the web is powered these days by pay-per-click and online advertising. Because that's the way that you can choose and have control over where you appear. Everything else is a little bit more hit and miss, and things like SEO and organic social media are still important, but they have to be complementary to that advertising presence.
Yeah, any kind of other marketing, the content marketing, email marketing, social media marketing, they are, as you say, complementary to or work hand in hand to driving traffic to the site. So what is the overall strategy? Absolutely. But if you are in any way, as a small business with limited resources, budget, going to go into any kind of online advertising, it is absolutely crucial that you have the best type of structure for your ads, and then you have remarketing powering that data month on month, so that you can use it strategically going forward. As we see, Phil, on the campaigns that we have for Facebook and Google that are running all the time, think of the stats of the amount of people that are looking at those on a desktop versus a laptop, tablet and smartphone. And the stats are huge in terms of the mobile side of interaction compared to as it would have been 5 years ago. It would have been primarily desktop. It is now a real minority.
Definitely. In fact, of all the things we've mentioned, I would say that last one is the most important, is to consider the fact that we are in a cross-platform world, at least online. So everything has to gear around the fact that people will visit us on 3 types of device.
Let me ask you a question, just to wrap this up then. So if you were building an ad strategy or an online advertising strategy, would you suggest that the first port of call in your testing is on a smartphone, tablet, or a desktop laptop?
Smartphone and tablet. I would.
I as you said, it's a horse for course. It's everything. You need to cover all different types of device. But I do believe as well that any kind of ads that you build, landing pages that you have, call to actions that you have, must be on a tablet and a mobile responsive platform first and foremost, because that's where you're going to get the most people looking at those ads, landing pages, and making interactions because of that. The reason I asked that, Phil, is because if you think about so many websites and the structures of websites that we also build, think of the sidebar, the right-hand sidebar, that was all the rage for probably the last decade. It is now becoming more and more redundant. A, because it's not being seen, because tablets and mobiles and smartphones are going to take over more and more of people's interactions with devices, but also because it's just noise. And people get washed out by too much noise on a web page. So the landing page, any page of a website is a landing page, should be primarily about that one element that you deliver. And too many of these sites, and I think this is probably another podcast because it's not for today, but too many sites consider the blog format of having lots of pictures, lots of text, lots of headlines down the left-hand side, and then a sidebar down the right that's got maybe a selling point, a newsletter to sign up to, an archive of previous blogs. And it's just too much noise. And I think in terms of any business certainly looking at online advertising, to cut down all that noise, to think about the device they use and what people want to see effectively on that left-hand side is what it's all about. Absolutely.
I think that's a great place to wrap up that final message. Think mobile, think tablet, then think desktop. 1, 2, 3. Well, Neil, it's been a pleasure as always.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Phil.
Have a great weekend.
And you. Take care.
My name is Phil Byrne, and I'd like to thank you for listening today. If you have any questions on anything you have heard in today's podcast, feel free to email your queries to podcasts@positivesparks.co.uk. We are an online advertising team who strive to help you thrive online. Want to know where to start with pay-per-click for your business? Download our free online advertising pack at positivesparks.co.uk/pack. Until next time, goodbye.